Yo, yeah, here he is. Good morning. We want to have a small discussion about three criminal cases, two federal felony criminal cases, and one is a felony case in a superior court and stuff like that. Two of them are Delaware cases, and one of them is a case out of Oakland County, Michigan. All right. So we'll start there with that one. We have here in Oakland County, Michigan, Karen McDonald is the state's attorney that filed charges against Joel Stalker, a 35-year-old, who was charged with assault, armed robbery, and possession of a firearm without a license or a legal permit to carry. We want to discuss this case because I found the details and the circumstances around it very interesting, especially something that, I think people of a younger age group may be able to, get a good idea from it, you know what I'm saying? Get a good understanding of what's going on and, how not to carry themselves, right? So this guy, not saying he's in it, not saying he's guilty or anything, not judging him at all or anything. So I'm just going off of the details of the case that I was able to obtain. So Joel Stalker, 35 years old, was charged with assault, armed robbery, and possession of a firearm by a person prohibited, basically, right? And allegedly, Mr. Stalker made threats inside of the store, which is called Birmingham Supermarket. Allegedly, he made threats inside the store. Allegedly, the defendant fled out of the store. Allegedly, the defendant had possession when he fled and got arrested by police of an airsoft gun. And allegedly, he tried to fight police. And then, so I wanted to go over this case slightly just to give some perspective to, the younger adults, the younger teens, and as well, peers that may be in the 20 to 30 age bracket as well. So we want to start with the fact that allegedly he tried to assault police. And I want to bring the awareness of that kind of crime, right? That kind of crime is considered a felony, and as well, in the state of Michigan, it holds up to 2 years in prison. That's the max. So if you fight a police officer, put your hands on a police officer, anything of that nature, the max amount of time that a judge could sentence you to is 2 years in prison, right? So here we have a 35-year-old man. Allegedly, he was trying to assault police, right? Or resisting arrest, right? And a lot of times with resisting arrest, those charges get trumped up and it sound outrageous, and you might have the person might have didn't even try to fight police. It could have been something simple, but you'll see resisting arrest or assault on police, on the documents, on the paperwork until you actually get to court. And, just to find out that you never even assaulted police, tried to, or anything, and you barely might have even resisted arrest, right? So that's a charge to be mindful of, because it can be skewed, you know what I'm saying, depending on the circumstances. But here we go. The alleged charge is assault on police, trying to resist arrest. And again, assault on police is a charge that holds up to 2 years in prison, right? That's the max that you could receive. So I'm going to touch on that one first. The second thing we want to touch on is Mr. Stalker was allegedly arrested with a firearm, and he's not licensed. And he's not licensed, and he has a criminal record already. So that's a felony, right? So I'm not sure what the guidelines are in the state of Michigan, but with a criminal record and with a firearm and you're already a felon, I'm quite sure that will probably be anywhere from 8 to 18 months of a guidelines for sentencing for the firearm itself. So then you're looking at 8 to 18 months for the firearm itself because you were convicted felon already, and then you're looking at up to anything between 0 to 2 years for the assault on a police officer, right? So those two charges allegedly is what, you know, he was charged with. And then again, he made threats in a store when he was trying to, I guess they said allegedly he was trying to like commit an armed robbery in a store. And while he was trying allegedly to rob the store, I guess he was making some threats or something like that. That's what the details was that I was able to, you know, obtain. So when he fled the store, allegedly, he was found by police with an airsoft gun, right? Now he gets arrested and the judge sets his bail at $100,000 cash, no 10%. So I wanted to talk on this one specifically for the youth and everything like that, because it's just one of those things where you see, we don't know what the intention was of a person that may have tried to commit a crime like this. You know, maybe this guy is innocent. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Again, this is a case in Michigan. We don't know whether he's innocent or guilty. I'm just going off of the what I was able to obtain as far as the facts or the affidavit. So, with that being said, you know, we don't know why somebody would, if this person did, but we can just use it as an example. Why we don't know why would somebody maybe commit a crime like that, right? Maybe they needed money. Maybe they needed food. Who knows? Starvation, homelessness, and inflation is at an all-time high, you know, and not even just at an all-time high, but it's still relatively high enough where things like that could force somebody's hand into committing a crime like that, maybe. You know, God forbid, but let's, you know, be realistic here. So with that being said, who knows why somebody would commit a crime like this? Armed robbery, attempted armed robbery in a store, in a supermarket or something like that, and assault on a police officer after they're trying to arrest him, and then he get caught with a firearm, but it's not even a real firearm; it's an airsoft firearm, right? So, my whole thing is this: the perspective on this case. For one, let's just say the defendant, if the defendant committed the crime, right? Maybe the defendant committed the crimes because he needed finances. Maybe he needed money, right? So my perspective for the youth is, you know, this kind of crime right here, this kind of scenario, you never want to put yourself in it. You never want to put yourself in a scenario like this. Like I said, 8 to 18 months for the firearm, whether it's a real firearm or not. The attempted armed robbery, who knows? In the state of Michigan, I don't know the guidelines for armed robbery for a convicted felon, but, you know, honestly, you might see anything from a 4 years to an 8-year sentence for a convicted felon for armed robbery. You know, that sounds realistic. I don't know the guidelines in Michigan, but that sounds realistic. A 4 to 8 for a convicted felon for an armed robbery. You know, in Pennsylvania, that sounds realistic. I don't got the guidelines in front of me for Pennsylvania. I don't got the guidelines in Michigan. So this is not to be taken for face value, right, at the moment. But again, just some perspective. So let's just say theoretically 4 to 8 for the the attempted armed robbery in a store. And then you add the gun charge. Like I said, 8 to 18 months for a convicted felon to basically have like a firearm without a license or a permit, and you're a convicted felon already. So maybe you're looking at 8 to 18 months for the firearm charge. And you got, I don't know if you have multiple firearm charges or a past firearm charge on your record already, so it might be higher than 8 to 18 months. But let's just say you don't have a firearm conviction. And let's just say you just have another conviction that's not firearm related. Maybe you're still looking at 8 to 18 months because you already got a prior conviction. So let's just say 8 to 18 months plus a 48 for the armed robbery in the store, and then the assault on a police officer. A 2-year sentence is the max. So we just say 2 years plus a 4 plus anything from 8 to 18 is it's like you're almost looking at 6 years or more, like for a case like this. So, you know, I wanted to bring this case to the forefront and talk about it. I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. I don't know the details to the case all the way. I just have slight details I was able to gather, you know, and I want to use this case for some perspective for the youth. So, you know, with a case like this, you never want to find yourself in a position like this or position yourself in a position like this. You know, why? Because again, if you have prior convictions, you're looking at anything above 6 years. Even if you don't have prior convictions, you still might be looking at anything above 3 years in prison, right? So it's just like a lot of time, and it's it's going to be very detrimental in the face of society to pick up these kind of charges. You know, armed robbery, assault on a police officer, and, you know, firearm charge all in one is just, you know, it can be something tough to try to overcome, you know, as a young person, you know, and you might want to go a different route when you get older or after you've done those years in prison. And, you know, it just might be a little bit more difficult with that kind of stuff, right? So, again, the perspective is that, and the perspective is if this kind of scenario was occurred because of money or the need of money, you know, we want to talk about that. You know, and, you know, in the world, in the society of America where capitalism is something that is encouraged, entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth, and everything of that nature, you know, I want to definitely encourage the youth and let it be known and give some understanding that, you know, there's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with, you know, working with other people, working for other people, and things of that nature. You know, so we don't know what this kind of crime was committed for, but I guess it's an armed robbery in a store. Maybe it's for money. Let's just say this person needed money. So, you know, for the youth, we want to examine a case like this. You know, instead of doing something like this, you're risking your life doing 6 years or more, or you're risking your life doing 3 years or more. Even if you don't have any prior convictions, you're still looking at 3 or more years in prison with a case like this. Armed robbery, assault on a police officer, and a firearm charge. All in one nutshell, you know? So, again, we want to encourage the idea of working 9 to 5, you know, whether it's part-time, full-time. You know, it's nothing wrong with it. I think it's beneficial. It's upsides. It's pros and cons, like anything else in life. You know, but I think, you know, giving yourself some time to grow up and to grow as a person, you know, is not a bad idea. So the perspective is that I wanted to give, you know, after examining a case like this, you know. And again, when we're talking about, you know, working with other people or working for somebody, no matter what kind of industry you might be in, you know, there's all kind of benefits you can receive. You know, whether that's the people you meet, the relationships you build, you know, whether it's a 401k, whether it's an unemployment, whether you actually making a lot of money where you can save a lot of money, you know what I'm saying, or whether you become a partner in the position or the company that you might be working for, or if you're getting a stock from it, you know what I'm saying, a piece of the stock or whatever. It's all about positioning yourself, you know, to whatever you have going on and whatever you want. It's all about focusing on what you want and what kind of future you want for yourself. So there's nothing wrong with, you know, getting a part-time job, working 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day or 7-8 hours for 2-3 days out of the week. You know, there's nothing wrong with working 60 hours a week for 6-7 days a week. You know, whatever the case may be. I think, and another thing that goes along with this I wanted to discuss while we are examining this specific case is genocide, right? It's another thing. Because, okay, a person commits a crime like this because this person needs money, you know? But I'm saying there's nothing wrong with, you know, working with other people, working for someone to acquire money. Now, you know, for some people, I know that can be tough. I know that can be, you know, it might feel impossible, it might feel hard to do and stuff of that nature. Maybe you got kids, maybe you got too many kids that you might feel like you have, or maybe you, excuse me, or whatever, something like that. Again, when we're talking about genocide, we want to talk about, you know, the youth having kids underage or having kids at a younger age, right? It all plays an effect in genocide. If you're gonna have children at 15 or 16, you know, it's a more likely chance that, you know, the money that you might be able to acquire at the age of 19 might not be enough for you to really sustain your whole package, everything that's on your plate. So again, we want to encourage, you know, taking your time for youth, you know, not having kids too early and stuff like that, you know, based on the idea of inflation and what a society is, and, you know, again, the pay rates and stuff like that, and society and all of that is what you got to take into account when you think about having children. So, you know, you think about stuff like that, you never want to position yourself, you know, like, oh, I got 3 kids, I got 4 kids, working for somebody, working here or there at a fast food restaurant, just making $400, you know, every 2 weeks. You know, it's not going to feed me and my 3 kids or so, right? So as a young person at 17, 16, that's something you want to think about. You know what I mean? You don't want to put yourself in the wrong position where that is your reality. So now you got to go into a store and do something like this. And now, look at it. You put yourself in a position, armed robbery, firearm, assault on a police officer, something of that nature. And now you have to go to prison for 6 years. And now you lose more money, which is time. And you're just losing that time, which is money. So, again, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're taking a step forward in your mind and you just take like 3, 4, 5 steps back. All right, so that's just the one case I wanted to examine and discuss specifically for the youth to give some perspective on, you know, kind of like how genocide or things that can play a role in to you stepping into genocide, right? So, again, what I mean by that is if you're going to have a child young or children young, and then you can't get a good paying job, but you have a lot on your plate, it could force you, you know, to go and do something that could lead you to a scenario like this. 25 or you're 35, caught with a gun, caught with drugs, or you caught in an armed robbery, you caught with a gun, etc., 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 whatever dilemma it could be. And again, you could be looking at 5 to 10 years in prison or 6 to 15 years in prison. And now what? You gonna go to jail and do your time, right? And you losing money. Or you're gonna be a coward, right? And you're gonna cooperate, which is gonna contribute to more crime. So, all right, we'll leave it there. And then we'll just go into case 2. All right, so case 2 is based in Wilmington, Delaware. Coming from that direction, this is a case that was handled and announced by the U.S. Attorney David C. Weiss, W-E-I-S-S. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Maybe it's Weiss. I think it's Weiss. U.S. Attorney David C. Weiss, a Widener Law graduate, Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania. So Widener Law graduate, U.S. Attorney David C. Weiss, he was appointed by Donald Trump to be the U.S. Attorney and the U.S. Attorney presiding over Delaware, right? Now, he announced on March 25th of 2024 that Jethro Tickles was being sentenced to 9 years in a federal prison, right? And I want to examine this case and bring some perspective to the public and, and stuff like that, for the reason of, this kind of case right here is an interesting case to, pay attention to, because the circumstances around it is circumstances, again, you don't want to find yourself in. Mind you, again, we're talking from the point of view of CMJ Esquire, which is the point of view of a defense attorney, right? So, U.S. Attorney David C. Weiss announced March 25th of 2024 that Jethro Tickles was being sentenced to 9 years in a federal prison, right? Why? He was caught in Wilmington, Delaware for a traffic stop. He was pulled over in Wilmington, Delaware for a traffic stop. While he's pulled over, I didn't get all the details to the case or whatnot, but again, from what I gathered, we'll create the perspective. Pulled over during a traffic stop. Probably didn't have a license, which means he probably was asked to step out of the car. The car subsequently was searched. Now, in the after effects of the car being searched, Mr. Tickles allegedly was found to have possession of a stolen firearm, 113 ecstasy pills, some cash in his person, some cash on his person, and 57 hydrocodone pills, and 1 ounce of marijuana, right? Somewhere on his person or in the whereabouts of the vehicle. So I want to examine a case like this once again, because again, CMJ Esquire, we're talking from the point of view of a defense attorney. And okay, let's say somebody's calling my firm, CMJ Esquire, right? CMJ Attorneys at Law, right? Let's just say somebody calling me. Hey, Mr. CMJ, we have my brother, my cousin, my husband, my son, ex-one, my friend, he's caught in a traffic stop. They had no probable cause to search the car. They had no probable cause to pull him out the vehicle. But they found an ounce of marijuana. They found 113 pills like this, 57 pills like that, and a stolen gun. What can we do? My first question is going to be, did he make a statement? Did he talk to police? Did he incriminate himself? Right? My next question is going to be, did he have a license? Right? Was the car registered? Whose name is the car in? Right? That's going to be my line of questioning to a family member or a friend or whoever may be trying to help him get representation while he's incarcerated, right? Now, while I'll be asking those questions, let's just say he didn't have a license. Okay, he didn't have a license. So that gives probable cause, and that gives them a right to actually search the vehicle then, because you don't have a license. right? Excuse me. So at that rate, when they actually get out the car because you don't have a license and they feel like you violated a traffic law or something of that sort, okay, still, it doesn't really 100% clarify the reason why they want you to step out of the car and why they want to search the vehicle. Is it because you don't have a license? Because that's technically still a traffic citation, right? But let's just say they have their clause, right? Their clause is for police safety. They felt like they wanted to search the vehicle. They felt like it was a reasonable suspicion of something else going on within the vehicle, right? Maybe you slurring when you're talking to them, or maybe you sweating, you nervous, you shaking. Maybe they smell marijuana. Maybe they see paraphernalia, right? Maybe you have a criminal history when you're giving them your name and they run your background check. So it's a variety of different things that could play into why they might actually step out the car so they can search the vehicle when you don't have a license. Even if you have a license, they still might be interested in doing that. But again, they would have to have reasons for suspicion and probable cause that something else outside the traffic stop itself is going on. So with that being said, we have here Jeffro Tickles, right? I don't know his case. I don't know innocence or guilt. I don't know. We're just going over the case description of the affidavit and we're just examining it to create a perspective. So here it is again. Stolen gun, traffic stop, ounce of marijuana, 113 pills like this, 57 pills like that, and again, some cash value on his person. All right. Somebody called CMJ Esquire. You know, if we was going to investigate the case and see if we can create a defense, again, we would be looking at all of that, right? So the perspective I want to create for the public, for youth, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that, you know, to avoid these kind of scenarios and situations, right? So the idea is, do you have a license, right? Is there reasonable suspicion, or does the officer have a way or a real reason to feel for officer safety? Yes or no, right? All right, you don't have a license. Do you have a criminal background? All right, you do have a criminal background. Okay, maybe that's something that the officer can lean on for what? Reasonable suspicion that you might be committing another crime. Why? You don't have a license, you drive without a license, and you have a criminal history already. So, you're not supposed to be driving, you're committing a traffic violation, and you're a criminal on record already. So, maybe that's something an officer could lean on, right? I'm not saying it's right, not saying that's enough. But I just say that's something that could get them, that's a reason why an officer could ask you to step out the vehicle. Just that simple. So for youth, this is why you want to be careful. This is why you want to pay attention to what you're doing. Just that simple. Because you have a criminal history without a driver's license, that's enough alone why an officer could, not saying it's right, why an officer could ask you to step out the vehicle. Now you have to step out the vehicle. Now you get patted down, you get searched. Do you have anything on your pockets? Do you have anything on your person? Do you have anything in your pockets? Oh, you got $3,000 in cash in your pockets. Okay. Do you have drugs in your pockets? Oh, you don't have drugs in your pockets. All right, but you got $3,000 in cash in your pockets. All right, stand here, sir. We're going to search the car. The police search the car. What are they finding? All right. They finding a stolen firearm. They finding 100 and so pills of this variety, and then they finding 50 pills of that variety, and whatnot. So now it's like, okay, contraband and a firearm, and you're a felon. So, the perspective that we want to create, is that you don't put yourself in these positions. Again, did you make a statement? Did you incriminate yourself? Right? The perspective that I want to create is to not put yourself in a scenario like that. Right? Why? Because it's contraband in the vehicle, it's a firearm in the vehicle. You don't have a license, and you're committing a traffic citation. And you have a criminal history. You get what I'm saying? So it's not a case that you can bring to me in hopes of me fighting it for you. Right? That's why we want to bring awareness and, bring the perspective on a case that sounds like this, because it's not a case I can fight for you. Right? So even if you have a public defender, how much could the public defender do for you if you put yourself in a circumstance like that? And I was talking about bringing the fun back into the profession. There's no fun in the profession if somebody's gonna call my phone and ask me to represent them, and this is what they're giving me. So you're giving me a case where you driving and you don't got a license and you're a convicted felon already, but you got a stolen firearm and contraband all in the vehicle. And then the police pull you out on a traffic stop, this, that, and third. How can I represent you? Right? So at that rate, what are you going to do? You going to take a deal? You going to plead guilty? Is that what you're telling me? All right. If that's the only option, I guess you will own up to it if you're guilty, right? But at the same time, let's say you're innocent. What's the probable cause of the police officer pulling you out, right? So that's when you're talking about a suppression motion, right? And a suppression motion is good. Suppression motions do get granted, right? Why are they pulling you out the car? Why? What's the officer's safety? Why did the officer feel unsafe? What was the probable cause? Was it paraphernalia? Was it the smell of marijuana? Was it a firearm in plain sight? What is the probable cause? What is the officer's safety? Right? Why are you pulling this person out of the car, whether this person got a license or not, whether they got a criminal record or not? A citation is a citation. Right? So we're gonna always go with the actual law. The law is the law. And that's the issue. You know what I'm saying? The law is the law, and that's the issue. And that's what you gotta stick to. You gotta stick to the law is the law. The law is the law. A citation is a citation. So that's the defense. That's the only defense that I can see for a case like that. Was there probable cause and was there officer safety? Otherwise than that, how could you expect me to represent you? Right? So I guess you would just be pleading guilty. And did you make a statement? Did you incriminate yourself? Right? So, worst case scenario in a situation like that, again, I think someone maybe will be looking to plead guilty. Otherwise, again, you would go out like a coward and cooperate. So, and again, this is why we want to, examine a case like this and create perspective and awareness for the youth and even for the older adults, Everything. So it's like a universal conversation. It's a transparent conversation. From a 15-year-old to a 40-year-old. The same perspective. Regardless of the age bracket. But and we thinking about the future. We thinking about the children. We thinking about the teenagers. So at that rate, this is what CMJ Esquire is for. We looking to represent people, in fightable cases. All right. So you see how the second scenario looked, right? Coming out of Wilmington, he gets sentenced to 9 years in a federal prison, right? Because of the gun that's stolen, because he had a criminal record, because of the 100 pills, and then 57 other pills, and whatnot, right? So that's the second scenario that we wanted to, examine and digest, and again create some perspective. So now we're on the third one. We're gonna go to the third one. Continue. Third one. This case is also out of Delaware, but it's out of Smyrna, Delaware, right? So that's like in the southern areas of Delaware and whatnot. Smyrna, Delaware, February 1st, 2024. U.S. Attorney David Weiss announced, again, a Widener Law graduate, and he was appointed by Donald Trump. Weiss announced that former Sergeant Coleman of the Wilmington Police Department pled guilty of bank fraud for a PPP loan from the SBA for $150,000, right? Now, the FBI field office in Baltimore, Special Agent R. Rock faces up to 30 years for this crime. So in this scenario, this is a little different, right? So it's not, we want to create the awareness and perspective about a scenario like this. So check this one out. Again, former sergeant of the Wilmington Police Department, Sergeant Coleman, pleads guilty to bank fraud for the PPP loan from the SBA, $150,000, as he was the police sergeant. He was acting police sergeant of the Wilmington Police Department, and he committed a bank fraud for $150K, right? February 1st, 2024, he pled guilty for that charge. Right, it's a federal crime. Right, Sergeant Coleman faces up to 30 years in prison. Right, this investigation was handled by the special agent from the Baltimore field office of the FBI. Right, very interesting that special agent in Baltimore handled and conducted an investigation in Wilmington, Delaware on a police sergeant, right, that committed a bank fraud for $150K while he was the police sergeant, right? So what I want to do is bring perspective and awareness on a scenario like this, because what is this? What does this show? What is this? All right? It just exemplifies and exclaims the corruption, in the judicial system. Not just in the judicial system, but in the law enforcement system, right? So, we want to talk about things like that as well, Why? Because again, the first case we examined, this guy is obviously looking for money. He obviously needs some money, so he's robbing a store at gunpoint, right? Like he's in dire need. Now he's looking at 6 or more years in prison, right? The second case, this guy, he's on a traffic stop. Maybe he's a convicted felon, multiple different felonies, maybe, right? Now he gets sentenced to 9 years in a federal prison. right? So you see the differences in the structures of the crimes they're catching and how much time it holds. So now you look at the third one, a police sergeant to a bank fraud of 150K because he applied for the PPP loan during the pandemic era, and he got approved for the PPP loan, 150,000, and then the FBI field office in Baltimore, Maryland, investigated it and found him guilty. Right? Pled guilty. So, you know, how much time do you think a person is going to get convicted for something of that nature, right? More than likely, he'll receive something like 3 years in a federal prison, right? So, 150K, which is the crime, and you only do what? I mean, what is he going to do? 2 years in a federal prison, 4 at the max, something like that, right? Granted, you know, it's not a violent crime or he's not a convicted felon, so first time offender still applies to him, right? So first time offender, it's not a violent crime. You know, again, I only see a person in that scenario maybe doing a 2 to 4 or a 3 to 6, 4 to 8, maybe, right? Something like that. But then you got this guy, you know, at dire need for finances, and he go into a store or something allegedly at gunpoint, armed robbery. You know, assault on a police officer. Now you're looking at 6 or more years in a state prison. Same thing. Guy traveling in traffic with, you know, contraband and a weapon. You know, gets sentenced to 9 years in a federal prison. You know, so it's like you see the circumstances, the landscape, you know, of criminal procedures and the criminal charges, and you know, again, if you look at the guidelines, you'll see the differences there as well. So for the youth and for, you know, other peers, regardless of, you know, age, you know, I would definitely say, you know, CMJ Esquire is definitely here, you know, and again, you'll be able to call our lines and we'll be able to dissect your case and give you a consultation and, you know, figure out we can pursue the case and investigate it for you. But outside of that, you know, again, it's just still good perspective for you to understand, you know, a little bit more about the legal side of society before you actually step outside and commit the wrong crime, you know, or before you get framed for the wrong crime, you know, and stuff of that nature. And then again, you know, looking at the actual scenario of a police sergeant, you know, with the bank fraud and stuff like that and pleading guilty, you know, it's just like, okay. So it's just like all of that perspective is very helpful, right? So the last part that I want to discuss is as well, don't forget, in the state of Michigan, in Oakland County, he got charged with those crimes, a robbery, right, and a firearm, and assault on a police officer. $100,000 bail, no cash, no 10%, right? So stuck in prison. You gotta fight that all the way. You gotta fight that all the way to the end, or you gotta wait until you get out, until that's over with, right? So for you, just keep that in mind. You don't want to put yourself in a position where they're talking about $300,000 cash bail and you can't get out, you know. And if you do, I mean, again, you know, be able to deal with you know, your actions and your results. You know, and then again, I'm always going to advise that if you can't deal with your actions and results, then I think you're just a coward, right? And how can I represent you then, right? So if you're gonna be a coward, you know, or you're gonna be foolish, how can I represent you? CMJ Esquire, man, how can I represent you? How can a public defender represent you, right? So it's things to keep in mind. We promoting positivity and you know, just promoting some education, you know, because again, my whole thing was, I was thinking the other day, talking to a colleague, and we were just discussing it, like, where's the fun at? You know, where's the fun in the profession? There's no fun in the profession anymore. You know, I can't represent anyone. You know, my colleague can't represent anyone, or I can't represent anyone if everybody's going to be a coward, or if everybody's going to be foolish. You know, I can't represent you. All right, well, what's the deal? The deal, all right, they saying they give you a 48. All right, I'll take the 48. All right, cool. You know, if I got to just keep giving everybody 48 every day, because that's the deal that's on the table, you know, there's no fun in the profession for me. You know, I didn't go through all of these case laws and, you know, all these trials and all these motions, you know, and stuff like that just to keep, you know, signing plea deals for my clients, right? You know, and I didn't go through all of these case laws and cases and emotions and, you know, all these battles, you know what I'm saying, with, you know, the courts to, you know, have a bunch of clients that's cowards and just going to cooperate, you know. So, again, CMJ Esquire, right, attorney at law, how can I represent you?
You expect a real nigga to play a game like that? The streets lost the morals. I'm the compass to him. Lil' me about money. He big 40. He was 12 watching me, so he know the story. No more city hoes, cause these bitches really boring. They explore different squads like they really dork. We got the best work hand down, that's why they coming to us. We done killed dudes for coming first. I'm in a piece shop right now, we grew up in the sewer. I done beat case no attorney, now they think I'm Jewish. Had to pivot for them squares like a fucking Rubik's. Ain't nothing easy here like I'm really ruthless. It was pain and agony in my heart. It was Cupid, he hit us both with the darts. It was war, probably died, I never would've thought. All alone, I'm way too deep in my thoughts. Kill Will took me in when it was dark. He was shooting in, but he showed me how to heart. They took a K, attacking an AR. I swear I hate the narcs and the state boys. Pazzo, ZBM, double S2. Yeah.